Friday. Thank God it's Friday, huh? It was a weird week over here.
Yes, I love Friday.
Do you love Friday? Do you get to go out on the weekends or do you work during the weekends as well? I don't even know. You're off on the
No, I
weekends.
don't work on the weekends.
Right.
I am. Well, I don't work for some on the
Right.
weekends. But
Right
yeah.
on. I gotcha. Well, cool, man. So it's another episode of Gray Matter. Very
Yes,
excited.
indeed.
I just got an email. That's a new thing. We're getting emails now that our show went live. That's fun.
Mm.
So how was your week, Rob?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Apart from I had very bad allergies. Right.
Oh, Rafa. See, I don't have the allergies anymore. Did we talk about that story last episode, like the cat thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's. I mean, yeah. We were talking about the cats thing
the cat
because you had
thing.
cats.
Still a point of contention in my family. Like, I can't believe you're allergic to cats. I
Yeah.
want more cats. I'm like, well, because we had 6.
Yeah. I can't do cats, but yeah, the pollen. Like, I just power through. Try to take my. It's interesting, right? Um, not to like
Hmm.
kicked us off on a like vaccine conversation.
Oh,
But
God.
I take Zyrtec, right?
Yeah.
Or that's what I've taken for a while.
Uh huh.
But then it wears off, and I take something else. And like the only thing that I take that I put into my system is allergy pills.
That's it. That's all I
Right?
used
I
to do
don't.
too. That's all I used to do. And you know what? I left a little drink right across there, so I'm gonna step away for one quick
Oh,
second.
sure.
But we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk. There's a law that passed today, or not passed, that the governor in Colorado signed in, that is allowing the school administrators in schools to help administer marijuana, which is a really interesting conversation. We kind of started talking about parenting and kids, so I think this is a good conversation to have a little bit about the kids and the marijuana
Yeah,
side, and then we'll get into our fun political cultural debates for the second half of the show.
of course,
But I
of course.
can't go without my fuel, so I'll be right there. It's like 10 feet away.
Go get your
Okay,
fuel.
yes.
I will just say hello to the people. Hope everyone's having a good day wherever you are, wherever you're watching from. And I'm in Brooklyn, and it's sunny. It's cool, right? It's not highs today are in the 60s somewhere. So welcome back, and now back
Thank
to
you.
you in the
Sorry, I
studio.
told you that was gonna be fast. It was 15 feet. My wife moved it on me. Damn it. Anyway, so yes, so today, and I'll pull this up for us to kind of go over, but basically the governor signed in. There's 2 bills that he's looking to sign in. One he did sign in. Basically, it allows the expansion of medical marijuana access for students in schools. Now, for those of you who don't know, I mean, it's you can recreationally buy cannabis if you're 21 and older in Colorado. If you are 18 and older, you can have a medical card, okay? Which everybody says is a prescription, but it's funny because it's not really a prescription. It's called a recommendation. They can't
The
call it.
recommendation card.
Well, you can't. Well, no, it's called. People call it a. We call it a red card, even though it's not even red anymore. Because when we first got it, it was this red certificate, and it was super
Okay.
inconvenient. It was a certificate, like you had to carry this everywhere you went, kind of like the vaccine card. Like you didn't make it fit in a wallet, really. Okay. Oh, and also you made it so you could easily print it on
Right.
a regular piece of paper. So, because
Right.
that made sense.
Yeah.
So.
Make your craft. You got a business.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get a handle of PDF, you can start printing up vaccine cards because it's so easy to copy that. Yeah, so he's passing a law where it's going to be easier, and nurses and administrators won't get in trouble for helping administer medical marijuana or being a part of that for kids who are sick. And our governor's really progressive. He's kind of awesome in that way. He's always been, even when
Yeah.
he was a representative in the House, was one of the huge.
Who's your
proponents.
governor? Polis.
Jared Polis, yes, he's the
Yeah.
first openly gay governor in the country, I
Yes.
believe. Not
Yes,
that
he is.
really matters to how he runs runs the state.
I mean,
Uh,
it matters
it,
in that that kind of representation needs to exist politically.
well, it matters that we have to say openly gay because I guarantee you there's been gay governors or something. It's like, in,
Yeah, undoubtedly, Jim McGreevey comes to mind, but
who's Jim McGreevey? I don't know.
he was the governor of New Jersey,
Was he?
who was having he was married to a woman, had an affair with a guy from another country. I think maybe some Eastern European country or something.
Really?
Scandal. It was
How?
scandal.
When was this?
Ooh, maybe 15 years ago.
That is
Something
still a
like that.
scandal 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It'll be a scandal today because he cheated on his wife, but you know, I think there's. Do gay guys get a slide for cheating on their wives? I mean, do you get a pass? Because
For
it's still.
cheating on their wives.
I mean, because you're like. Obviously, the conversation is going a whole different direction all of a sudden. But no, really, like this is a question. Like, is do you get a
If you
pass?
say for cheating on their wives.
Yeah. See, so you got married because you were trying to deny who you are, or you were afraid to admit who you are.
Okay.
But then you cheat on your wife because you're gay. Do you get a pass for that? When you come out, you're like, "Hi, honey, I know we got
whose
married."
perspective?
What? From I guess the wives. I guess. I mean, well, is it considered adultery if you weren't admitting who? I mean, I guess it is because you were married, right?
I mean, it is adultery by whether by the legal definitions of marriage or some people's spiritual definition of marriage, right? It
Right.
could be adultery, but it's it's so weird because for me, it depends on that person's how deep in the closet they were, what the scenario was. Like there are plenty of guys who I know who are gay. Not as many, thank God, as I did when I was like in my 20s, but who are married, who they know that they're gay. Their spouse probably suspects that they're gay, but they refuse to identify as gay because of what they believe gay means.
Mm.
So they're intentionally closeted. There's a lot of politicians who are intentionally in the closet.
Lindsey Graham.
So yeah,
Sorry.
to name one.
To name one.
And I don't want. I don't know. For those people, they get no kind of pass from me at all.
Well, especially when you're somebody, and like I guess, I mean, you know, we're acting like we know for sure that Lindsey Graham is gay because it's a common thing about him.
I don't have definitive proof. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, we don't have definitive proof, you know, although I think Trump does.
Oh, it is abundantly clear that someone has something on Lindsey Graham.
It is abundantly clear.
Like,
it is.
There is
really.
no
It's
person
gotta
I've
be
ever
good.
seen sell their soul like that.
And
Apart
it's-
from, I'm sorry, Ted Cruz. Maybe there's something on Ted Cruz.
Yeah, but Ted Cruz is already somebody who was born with like a half a soul. So like, how much has he really given up? Really? I mean,
look, it's his right. Didn't his father kill JFK?
Hmm.
I mean, what can you say about that? If that's your upbringing.
look, he's somebody like I just saw a picture recently of him with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and not that we really want to talk about the other guy, right? But
But we're not going to not talk. I just got to say
no,
this.
we're not going to not talk about it.
People are
'Cause-
not going to not talk about him, act like he didn't exist. So that
Oh
moment
no! We need to talk about the fact that he exists, and it's going to kind of lead us into our second part of the conversation. And maybe we'll do a little bit of cannabis at the end, since we're already kind of rolling with the flow of this, right? But so let's be clear: we'll talk more about because we're going to talk about more kids and cannabis and like parenting the age of cannabis, and so we want to have that conversation. But we flow with the conversation here, people. So if you're jumping
Yes.
in right now, just understand that that's how it's going to roll. So. All right, so I see a picture of Lindsey Graham with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And not Lindsey Graham, sorry. Teddy Cruz. Teddy Cruz, I said. Ted Cruz.
Did you
and-
just say Teddy?
I sure did say Teddy Cruz. But that you can't call him Teddy. It sounds like I'm diminishing him, but I'm also making him cute. And he's
Teddy
not.
Cruz.
He's not cute.
No, only Teddy is Teddy.
There's only,
Pendergrass.
yeah,
That's
there's that Teddy Cruz, yes. Or Terry Cruz. There's Terry Cruz. I'm sorry. That almost sounds like I'm
There's
saying
Terry
Terry
Crews,
Cruz.
yeah.
Very
There's
different.
Teddy Ruxpin, but that's different.
That's
Go
totally
ahead, go
different. Anyway, you see his picture of him next to it, and every time I see Ted Cruz with Trump as if they're buddies, I'm like, this man insulted your wife's looks, and you are
Yeah.
okay with that.
And
like-
she's okay with that. But like both of them there's issues
There's issues. There's
of
issues.
some kind.
Yeah. There's issues there.
But,
And-
what segued us? Because I feel like this is still a piece of what we're going to talk about. But what segued us into them?
we were talking
Yeah,
about
so-
we randomly brought up something about somebody gay. Oh no, Jared Polis, because Jared Polis is gay. That's where we came from. Because Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, is openly gay, and then all of a sudden we went to gay politicians, and of course we ended on Teddy Cruz in a picture with Trump. So, But
But he just so the law is about how much you can carry. No, this law is about kids in school.
oh, the Pol. Oh, wow! Look at you bringing us back. Okay, let's go back to it then. All right, Polis just signed into law, and I don't know all the deep specifics yet, but basically, it's saying that it's okay for nurses to help administration of marijuana in schools, and they will not have any repercussions put on them. Now, obviously, this. Let's be clear, people. Don't everybody freak out. All right, this means they can only administer marijuana to kids who have um, a prescription, and I said not a prescription, a recommendation, which means basically their parents had to pick up the product. The kids can't go in if they're underage and go buy product, right? My wife just took my weed from me. She just came in and took my weed. Like, that's allowed during a live stream. What in the hell is this world coming to? And she just left. Like, look, I'm watching her out the window of the studio. She's just gone.
Wow.
If this show doesn't go well, we're blaming Jackie. So anyway, back to the point, right? So now we've opened it up where they can administer it, and the reason why is because Polis knows. He said, and he's not somebody who consumes cannabis, as far as I've known. He said he doesn't, but he believes in it as a medicine. He's seen results over years of being close to it, and he's saying, look, this is taking it closer to treating cannabis as a medicine. And I think that's a really good point to make. And I don't know if any other states are doing this specifically, if this is allowable or not. I've never seen it in the other laws that have been opened up, if that was a portion of it. So I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit. But this is a big one. And he's also commuted he's also commuted sentences recently. I think it was like about 3,000 sentences were commuted for a possession of an ounce or less. He didn't go for above possession of an ounce or less because right now our laws in Colorado are for possession of an ounce or less, which the next bill he's going to sign is about to change, where it looks like he's going to double the limit you can carry in Colorado and purchase potentially too, I think.
So let me ask you a question.
Please.
I'm in totally agreement with the notion of that there's no limit on how much you can carry, right? Because we were saying earlier, like no one's gonna. If someone opened your trunk and you had like, 50 bottles of whiskey or vodka, right? You have right to do that. There's
you have absolute right to. There is no limit on how much alcohol that I am aware of that you can carry.
I wonder if there's. Personally. I'm sure there may be. Possibly in some places there may be county restrictions.
That can happen, yeah, sure.
Or state, interstate something, right.
Well,
maybe.
And there could be a limit. Like, I mean, my guess is there probably is a limit on how much, but it's a ridiculous limit that nobody's ever violating unless you're somebody and you would have a license for like transportation of alcohol,
right.
But there's. And again, I'm not really clear on that. That's just me guessing.
What is the marijuana equivalent of 40 bottles of vodka?
Well, there is no marijuana equivalent, although they are always trying to find equivalencies because it's like they during the legalization process, and it's going to happen in other states too. There's always like it's like if you don't understand something, you try to fit it in a box of something you do understand, right? That's what, and so for the longest time, marijuana, they try to treat marijuana like alcohol, and I get why, and I mean, and sometimes you use a comparative analysis of marijuana to alcohol just so people kind of can grasp some things, but it also is not the same. I mean, for a couple of reasons, and I say this all the time: over 80,000 people a year are killed from alcohol, and 0 from marijuana.
Right.
So, there's that. And I don't count marijuana related, which basically means that guy got in a car accident because he was walking down the street and somebody hit him and he had marijuana in his system because it could have been his system from the night before or whatever, but on the blood test. And that's not a marijuana related crime. That's like saying, oh, it's a brown eye related crime because he had brown eyes. It doesn't it's not the same. Or a brown eyed related death.
There's no marijuana equivalent to the breathalyzer.
So there is, but there isn't, right? So you can, people keep trying to come up with we have the new breathalyzer, and it's like there's this big news headline, and then it fizzles out because they don't. Right now, the best way to test for if there's cannabis in your system is a blood test, and they find out how many nanograms of of THC is in your system. That's what they're testing for. They're testing for THC. And the problem with that is, and it's already been proven over and over again, is that if I can see, first of all, it's in my bloodstream. It's not telling me if I'm high right now. It just tells you that I had consumed cannabis and had THC in my system in the last so many 24 hours or whatever, or
Okay.
even a little bit longer than that.
And
Depends
the
on how
breathalyzer is it designed to be speaking about right now,
right then.
immediate?
And blood test, but that's also the nature of alcohol. Alcohol metabolizes in your body much faster, right? One drink per hour is the general rule for alcohol. Whether it's a glass of wine, a shot, or a glass of beer, those are all equivalents, right? And so alcohol is a lot easier to understand on that level, right? Of course, there's also, you have your alcohol tolerance, but tolerance isn't taken into effect with alcohol, and I understand why, because if you're drunk, you're drunk. And the definition of being drunk is a pretty good definition, honestly. I mean, for those of you out there who are big drinkers, like, well, I'm not drunk at 0.08. It's like, yeah, but the baseline of most people are. Or so, and so your skill level goes down. So deal with it, drunk drivers, But
and also, side note, an issue is the word drunk, or that it needs to be a newer, maybe a new word needs to take over, because what people mean when they say that is that they're not, from their perspective, incapacitated or impaired.
Yeah, you have the beer muscles, right? I mean, it's the same thing. I mean,
Right.
You have that bravery that alcohol gives you, which is really not bravery; it's stupidity, right? I mean, alcohol has given us
It's
great
a sense
stories.
of fearlessness.
Yes, and your senses are deadened, so you don't feel it as much. You don't feel like when you're like you can be kind of rougher with things, obviously, but like when you drive, you tend to drive heavier foot. You're a little lead foot there when you drive with alcohol, even though you shouldn't be. And marijuana's the opposite. For anybody out there, I mean, the worst offense I ever did driving high was stopping at a stoplight and waiting for the light to turn green.
Yes.
I have done that. And I know people
Yes.
out there have done that as well, okay? But that's pretty much the offense, right? And honestly, if you're too high, you're going to get in that car and you'll be like, dude, I'm too high to drive. I can't drive. I mean, I've had times where I'm like, I got to wait. So I think that's something that people need to acknowledge is,
Okay.
oh, our live video ended. Why did
What happened?
It says our video ended.
We're not live.
I don't know. See, Facebook does that. It'll end and then it'll come back.
We were. I was.
And
I don't
no,
know if that's
we're.
what talking-
I mean, it looks like we're still on, as far as I can tell. So yeah, I think we're on, man.
So,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna just assume that we are, because I want to also ask another question about the same
Sure.
bill.
Sure.
So I'm curious, what would be the medical condition? And I'm all for it, right? I'm all for making it fine in schools for people to get it, administer it. Question about 100%.
Mm-hmm.
What is the condition that would require? I guess it depends on how old the kids are too, right? When they say kids in schools, what age are they talking about? They can't be. I doubt that they're talking about elementary school yet.
Well, it really depends on the ailment, honestly, Rob. So if you're somebody, I mean, like some of these ailments that when you have somebody in elementary school who's taking cannabis, though, they're usually a much more debilitating condition, like something like Dravet syndrome, where the kid is having.
Wait, I can't hear you all of a sudden. Like your voice.
You can't hear me at all? Can you hear me better?
No,
Yeah.
I do, now I
So
do.
something like Dravet syndrome, which is a rare form of epilepsy, it's like a seizure disorder, which is what Charlotte Figi was rest her soul. She passed away a year ago, but she was kind of one of the faces of the medical marijuana movement because she had this awful disease called Dravet syndrome, and it made her have up to like 100 seizures a day. And that's debilitating. I mean, it's like that kid. I mean, and the life expectancy is already very low. Well, cannabis did give her a life. She could play. She was down to very few seizures for quite some time. And that's what it is for a lot of kids with Dravet's or other of these seizure disorders. So those types of disorders, those kids are getting 1,000 milligrams a day of THC a lot of the time. All right, and that's a lot. I mean, that's something I'm not consuming 1,000 milligrams a day. Most people aren't. But when you're
Is it
when
a
you're
thing though? Also, side note, I don't know if it's my computer or yours, but
yeah,
I feel like your voice
is distorted.
well,
Well, if
it just
anybody,
goes
we have
like
a few
usually I hear
listeners, so
you
please let us
unbelievably
know
clearly.
if that's what's happening on your end, people, because
Like I
we
feel
would
like
like to
right
know.
now I hear you perfectly.
Okay,
Maybe
good to
because you're
know.
right on the mic.
Okay,
Um,
good to know. All right.
okay, so yeah,
Well,
I can grasp. So the thing is then that
mhm.
this would be taken. We're talking about things that are injections. Like, what would the
No, no, no,
nurse
no,
be
no.
injecting?
No injections of cannabis. All right. That's a common misconception. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be one, right? But that's a
But the
common.
nurse is just giving a pill.
They're usually taking a super concentrated oil, like a Rick Simpson oil is known as, or Phoenix Tears, where it's this very, very concentrated, almost like an oil substance they'll just put right on their tongue. It's just pure medicine, because to get that much medicine and put it in food, I mean, you could, but it's just better just administered that way. It gets in the bloodstream faster, it's medicine. I mean, in that sense, it's medicine, right? And cannabis is, and that's why Polis signed this into law, right? Is cannabis is, a medicine, and it's one of my biggest complaints, really, about recreation. I've talked about this in the past. When we move towards recreation cannabis sales in Colorado, I mean, it's a great thing, and it should happen, and I'm glad it's happened. But the problem with that is that it also took away from the focus of what cannabis can do medicinally for people. And there's less of a conversation about it medicinally. And that's problematic, because it is an amazing medicine and it does amazing things. And to me, and to most people who are advocates for full legalization of cannabis, or pretty much full legalization of almost any substance, honestly, but that's another conversation. But cannabis specifically, because of all the benefits of cannabis. The big fun for us is just like, look, this is a medicine. Recognize it's a medicine first. I mean, it's a great substance, and it's way better alternative to alcohol, and so it's a safer alternative for recreation. It absolutely is, and it actually makes your society safer. The last study I had seen was you're looking at about a 9% decrease in vehicle fatalities and this is pre-2020, right? We're not going to count statistics in 2020. If you legalize cannabis, if you legalize cannabis in that state, there's it's almost within like a few percentage points. There was, like, in the first few years they did this study, there was a 9% decrease in all the states of drug driving deaths. So that's an interesting. I mean, and again, is that a cause or not?
Are the laws to legalize cannabis or to legalize marijuana?
I love that. That's a educated question right there. The laws are to so here's the thing. The hemp version of cannabis is legal now. Okay, I mean, we used to have the conversation back in the day, and I mean back in the day pre-2014, really, in Colorado. But now it's federally legal. Hemp is federally legal. The conversation used to be you could buy hemp products, but you couldn't buy hemp products that were made in the United States, because you weren't allowed to grow hemp in the United States. So it was okay if we bought hemp from Canada. It was okay if we bought hemp from China or Europe or anywhere else in the world. But if you bought hemp you couldn't grow hemp here. And which is that's an insane conversation when you go, wow, as far as agriculture, we're very good at growing things here in the United States. We are. And we could have been growing hemp all this time. And that's a disturbing thought when you think about how asinine that is. It's like, go ahead and buy hemp, but you can't, not made in America. God damn it, ain't gonna be made in America. So now we're past that. So hemp is legal. So but usually in the industry, and it's one of those things that always drives me crazy, is you'll always hear them say cannabis and hemp. And every time I hear cannabis and hemp, I hear canines and Great Danes. Okay? It's like, see, understand that's the conversation when people say cannabis and hemp. And it's one of those things that bothers me, but I get also that we always have to put things in some type of a box for us to understand. I said that already, like, the same thing. We try to find equivalencies in alcohol for cannabis. And so they try to find and then we'll try to find equivalencies within cannabis. We do it here. So we have 1 ounce of bud is equal to 800 milligrams of edibles. So if I can buy 1 ounce of bud, I can buy 800 milligrams of edibles, or I think it's, Is
So
it
I still don't think it's
milligrams?
broken down in the way people need to know. Like, what is if someone, smokes a bowl? What is the equivalent in a piece of chocolate?
We
Of
just
that
lost.
one.
We just lost our internet again.
Oh,
What?
really? We
Yeah.
seem to be
What in the hell
on
is
the
going
on my
on?
screen. We seem to be live. I will.
That is
Oh,
okay. Hold on. Let me do this
was
again.
interrupted.
Well,
Is
see,
it back though?
no, now it's showing something totally random that's not us. There we go. I don't know what's going on, man. So I feel like it keeps playing over us. Um, Facebook's not making this easy. Oh, keep saying it ended. All right, we're in a chat. We have 3 people watching. If anybody's watching us right now and you can hear us live talking, please just say so. That would be really helpful. 'Cause it's not.
Yes. Let us know.
Yeah, it's really weird. Well, we're going to continue the conversation. So,
Sure,
because
sure.
now it's showing it again, but I don't know if what I'm seeing here or if it's the old one. So it's just odd. All right, I'm trying to get us to. Where's my chat? So see the chat. It says we're live right now, though. So okay.
All right.
And Facebook. So where were we, man? Sorry, I got distracted by technical issues.
Is cannabis legal or is marijuana?
Thank you. So yeah, when we're talking about legalization, we're talking about THC. We're really talking very specifically about one cannabinoid, and that's what it is. It's THC. And so, yeah, so that's to answer your question. So that's the first thing, right? Because hemp is now legal. We can grow hemp. We can, obviously you have to be a licensed farmer to grow hemp, but you can grow hemp. And now, what's interesting though is we try to put this, like I said, we try to create this separate box for hemp and marijuana, and it's the same thing. It's just what are you doing with the end product? Honestly, it all used to be called cannabis. It actually all used to be called hemp. Pre Harry Anslinger and William Randolph Hearst and the whole anti and the reefer madness,
Okay.
everything was called hemp or it was called cannabis. It was not like considered a different thing, right? And so it kind of is interesting that we now have this separation of the plant because of what society has done during the Prohibition era. And so now you have the hemp industry, you have the marijuana industry. There is crossover in the two, but they do conflict in a lot of ways. You have an issue where if you're growing a lot of hemp, you could cross-pollinate into a marijuana field if they're growing it outdoors. And so there are issues that we're going to start seeing more and more of as the legalization booms more and more for both sides. And especially when you start seeing that there's going to be huge hemp fields eventually that are going to be growing for fiber, which means that they won't have a lot of flower. They won't even be growing for CBD. They're going to be very specifically growing for fiber. So you'll see tall stalks that are really stacked together in a very tight grow pattern. And you can see that in like hemp fields in Europe where they're really when they were focusing on fiber before CBD, because you grow them differently.
Interesting with me in the language of the conversation is the fact that it's marijuana that has been so negatively used successfully as a term, right? Not cannabis. So trying to get people to line up behind legalizing cannabis,
Yes,
and legalizing marijuana, weed, are two different things.
they are two different things. We also have to change the way we talk about. Look, I look at it this way. Like, I'll say marijuana and I'll say hemp to differentiate the two, so people know which one I'm talking about. I don't like to say cannabis and hemp for the same reason, like I just said earlier. That's like saying cannabis and Great Danes. It drives me crazy. And when I see media companies in the cannabis industry saying cannabis and hemp, and like I remember there was and I'm not trying to knock on them, but it was their first issue. There's a magazine out there that started competing with us called Hemp Magazine, and they do a very nice job. It's a nice layout, right? But their very first magazine on the cover said cannabis and hemp. What's the difference? And I was like, that's the dumbest statement I've ever seen on the cover of a cannabis publication, because there is no difference. Hemp is cannabis. Okay, so I mean that like.
But was that the point of the article?
No, see, that's the other point, right? Right. So you have this issue where they talk about it like it's two different things, and it's like, and again, it's like if we know what we're talking about, if we were scientists, we wouldn't say cannabis and hemp, right? And if we are the experts in our field, then you have to speak like you know what it is you're speaking about. And
True.
so you have to start, you really do have to start delineating, okay, this is THC cannabis as opposed to, as opposed to industrial cannabis or, and I don't even like the term industrial hemp either. I mean, we'll use it because sometimes it makes sense. It perfectly applies to a lot of things. But at the same point, I think we need to start rearranging our thought process about calling it industrial hemp as well for a lot of cases. To me, it should be called commercial hemp. And the reason why is it's a product that we're selling to people and to the public. Like when I think of industrial anything, like you don't think of it like you're buying industrial gasoline.
Right.
Right. It is industrial, like, you know what I mean? But you're the consumer. You're just buying this.
Yeah. Industrial, you think more of the warehouse and the factory versus commercial is more available to the consumer.
That's exactly my point. Thank you. You put it better than I could. And so when you say commercial, it's you recognize, wow, like commercial to me, I hear an economy. I hear all these things popping out of it. I hear consumer demand. So commercial to me is one of my preferred usages when I talk about hemp in that way. And I'm not saying there's not industrial and all that. I get that. But I mean, it's just commercial to me, just it hits the mark better for me on that side. But, we are mostly talking about now, we're really talking about the legalization of THC across the country, right? Whether it's medical or recreational. Like I said, we're at 36 states in the District of Columbia that are medical. Well, I mean, and 17 now that are recreational in the District of Columbia. And so we're at this point where we're almost there, but it comes down to what we've talked about in the past, Rob, which is essentially Biden and Harris administration need to get off their ass and actually show that they really do mean what they say about this. And I've been pretty happy with non-cannabis related issues of the Biden-Harris administration. I like the things that the choices they're making. I think they're getting a lot of things done.
To me, it's too early. This whole first 100 days thing is dumb. Doesn't. You're not going to know the effectiveness. Sure, people can do things, right? Trump went in and signed a whole bunch of shit and
sure did
started things moving. Just because you
executive
start
orders
things moving doesn't mean something. But what'd you say?
Yeah, with executive orders, it's easy to do a bunch of executive orders, right? And
with executive orders, right?
Yeah.
Which is a thing that exists for the president. Does the public and within this democracy, right? Within this republic, right? Have any say in what if we don't? Who created executive order? Why do they exist? The thing, do citizens of the country want it anymore? All of these things that exist that we have no say in, right?
Well, I mean, we have a say in it because we elected the president, right? So you elected this person to come in. You may not have elected the person to come in that's there, but they are now the CEO of the country, which I don't agree with that statement, honestly, even though but when you look at that, like when you come in as the boss, right, there's a lot of things you can just do, whether the board lets you, they said you now have the power to do this.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Those things, these things that were created in the 1700s, why are we existing? And I granted all these things didn't start then. There are things that went in the 1800s, the early 1900s. I understand that.
Sure. But
why are we still existing under these things? Why don't we as a people have the simple fact that I truly believe more people want the popular vote than the electoral college.
Well,
across the board. I believe
look, if you want the electoral college, then you know that your party has a disadvantage in the majority. To me, that's the only thing. If you want
did I say that backwards? Did I say that backwards? I think I may have just said it backwards. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was I believe that more people want the popular vote.
Yeah, no, you said that. You did.
Okay.
No, I was just saying if you're somebody who wants the electoral college, then you're somebody who recognizes that, like, and our video just went out again. I don't know why it did it. If you want the electoral college, you're somebody who wants, you're in the minority party and you want to keep having control. That's
But
it.
if
That's
more
the
of
only
us
reason
want
for
the
it.
popular vote, why is it not already in place? What is our
Well,
holdup
it
as a
comes
country?
down. Well, that comes down to the way we break down voting, but also I mean, like first of all, the way we have it is a states' rights conversation, right? So in the states' rights conversation, states get to dictate essentially how they elect their leaders on their end, which is why we're having bizarre, these ridiculous laws happening in Georgia and Texas that are basically voter suppression laws and are anti people of color. They're basically incredibly racist, right? But it's really just anti anything that's not Republican. That's really what it is. And of course, the Republican
Yeah.
Party is pretty racist, so of course the policies are racist, right? Has shown itself to be racist. That's a better way to put it. For those Republicans
Yeah.
out there who are not racist,
Consistently.
you are, I'm sorry, racist adjacent now. If you
Yes,
keep
you're
voting
willing
for
to get in
Republicans,
bed with
yes.
racists.
If
Yeah.
you keep voting for Republicans, you're telling anybody else out there that you're okay with a certain level of racism.
Just a little.
Just a little. Just at least a little. All right? Sorry. You're saying I prioritize tax cuts on the rich over treating everybody equal. That's what you're telling me. All right. Anyway, that's how that's my take on it. And that comes into that's really what we wanted to talk about today was that two-party system. And I think this is part of that conversation, right? We just had this statement from Mitch McConnell, and I hope Manchin is listening, that Mitch McConnell said 100% of his effort is to block the Biden administration. 100%, people. So let's think about that for a second. 100% of the efforts of Mitch McConnell is only in blocking the Biden administration, which is what he did to Obama's administration, right? Which means not even 1% for people, not even 1% for the citizens.
That we even live in a world where a disgusting person like Mitch McConnell could still be maintaining power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right through all of the Trump years, even the pre-Trump years, this man is disgusting, still retaining power through all. So we're sitting here in 2021 talking about how disgusting he is, but he's managed to hold on to this power for the last however number of years inside of a country that would allow a Donald Trump to be president is crazy making to me, that we're this held up from functioning. Oh, and by Joe Manchin. That somehow I said this, I don't know if I said it to you or someone else.
Yeah.
In the era of Black Lives Matter, Me Too, trans equality, in the midst of all this, right? Mm-hmm. Refugees being welcomed, the conversation centers around Mitch McConnell
and Joe Manchin. Well, and that's the thing. So, I'm sorry. As soon as Mitch McConnell came out and said 100% of our efforts is to block the Biden administration, Joe Manchin should have said, you know what? Filibuster, we got to get rid of the filibuster. He's not going to do that, though, because as far as I'm concerned, he might as well be a Republican operative, right? Like, where he's like this.
Did. I'm sorry. I don't know why there's this belief that Joe Manchin is a Democrat or a member of the Democratic Party or anything. It makes no sense. Actually, in 2016, here's the thing. In 2016, right, my belief as a person who supported Hillary Clinton, right, when she picked Tim Kaine, like people couldn't understand it. I can't believe it. Like, why Tim Kaine? I wish we're living in a world or a moment where her running mate could have been a woman. That's what I wanted her to pick. I wanted her to pick a female running mate, right? People kept saying, well, that'll never happen, which is basically men around the world. That is, I mean, there's women who are to blame as well, but that's largely on us, right? Mm-hmm. That men overall we're not ready. Like, well, one at a time, really, because it's all male tickets for centuries, right? Nobody seemed to have a problem with that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
let me say this really quick. If she was the sort of vile person that people believe her to be, I do not think that Hillary Clinton is some secret racist who's got like a child sex ring in Baltimore going on. Like, I'm sorry, I just think all of that is just so stupid. It's ridiculous.
Mhm.
If she was the sort of sneaky person that they painted her to be, who was going to go to any lengths to get the hidden Trump voter,
Mhm.
I thought that her running mate would have been Joe Manchin,
Mm.
because Joe Manchin is not a Democrat. Joe
No,
Manchin is a Republican.
Joe Manchin would have probably been a really good calculated decision. Like, it was weird when she picked Tim Kaine because it was kind of who's this guy? And
I personally feel like the reason, I mean, he seems like a nice man, so forth and so on. And at its core, is he would have given permission for anyone who just didn't want to get on board with Donald Trump, anyone sort of Republican who didn't want to get on board with him.
Yeah.
A really nice white guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was just really nice guy.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the calculation was that people need something other than Trump. They don't like her. All right, we'll get the really nice
somebody
guy.
else.
That's what people would like. But then people showed themselves to like, no, we actually like Trump. So
There could have been somebody else, though. I don't know. I mean,
there's plenty of other people it could have been. I'm not going to even put that
it could
on
have
her at
it
the
could have
end
been a
of the
young
day.
Cory Booker would have been an interesting choice. Like, she could have gone that way, which would have been a smarter way too. I think to
No, Cory Booker wouldn't have worked because it would have been sold as if she was trying to resell the 08 campaign in reverse. That's literally what it would have been.
I get what you're saying. Look, the big problem is, and we said we were going to talk about this, and we got 15 minutes left, so let's not is that this is all stemming to me, and we've talked about this before. We both, I think, agree on this, that the two-party system needs to go away.
It needs to end.
It was our founding father. I had a quote up before all the internet stuff, and so I don't actually have it up right now, but it was a great quote from Quincy Adams, and John Quincy Adams, and about why we need to avoid the two-party system. He says, as soon as we get to this two-party system, then we're going to have this just basically a destruction of who we are as a society. And we're seeing it really coming out in front of us, aren't we? The problem right now, and I've heard this statement before, of a quote of somebody, and it doesn't, and whether Republican or Democrat really doesn't matter. You could just insert D or R in this conversation, where somebody says, hey, there's a vote coming up, and the person goes to them who's a representative, and they turn to another one's like, oh, so what do we think on that? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so this was a representative who was quoted as saying this. And again, I can't remember who it was. It was a few years back. And they asked the question, what do we think on that? And I'm like, wait, you're supposed to have a thought on this without somebody telling you what to think. And like, that's the problem right now, is if you have a D or an R next to your name, people immediately assume they know everything about you. Which is why Joe Manchin is a secret agent. There's a D next to Manchin. What's that?
Right. They can know some things about you, but they don't know everything about you.
They don't know everything about you, and I'm sorry, it's just a shorthand laziness for people. And really, what it comes down to is it's when you elect somebody with an R or a D next to the name, it's almost like they have to go with whatever the conversation is leading to, for Democrats or Republicans. Like, they can't veer off of it very often anymore. It's been very hard for any of them to veer away and disagree. You have some that have popped up, like, you can look at AOC, who like absolutely regularly disagrees with the party leadership and talks about the things that she disagrees with. Whether you like her or not, I like that she does that. All right. Now you could try to say the same thing in the Republican Party, but they don't really. You don't see that much disagreement or infighting going on there. They do it behind closed doors, probably. They're a little, in a way, they're a little more subtle.
More publicly in lockstep.
They are a little more publicly in lockstep. But the problem really is when you get a statement from Mitch McConnell that says, I am 100% focused on stopping this administration, that tells me that the two-party system has now, and we already knew this, has basically moved away from helping fucking anybody. All right? Like, the conversation should be, I'm 100% focused on taking care of the American people.
Right.
All right?
But he's framing it as his stance is taking care of the American people because Mitch McConnell and people like him would rather spend 4 years telling people that the other side is trying to misuse your money rather than giving people any assistance.
Yeah.
So they don't want to do anything to actually help people, but they want to spend 4 years just talking about why the other side wants to spend too much money.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear on things, if you're worried about them spending too much money out there, anybody out there who's a Republican watching, the Biden administration is focusing on spending rich people's money to pay for all of the programs that they're doing. And in fact, if you're making, I think it's less than $100,000 a year, you're paying less or almost no taxes right now, based on all the tax breaks and the gives backs that they're doing. So, what's really happening is the rich people are finally paying their fair share if this goes through, if all these spending bills go through.
But I have to say this, I know that you're not. So let me preface it this way: I know that you're not like just trashing rich people across the board.
No.
But I have to say, I feel like this has all been a game that's played on the public. I don't care, honestly, if, Jeff Bezos, who I'm not crazy about, but I don't care if Jeff Bezos now gives another $100 million, right? I don't care. Because at the end of the day, even if Jeff Bezos doesn't, or Warren Buffett, or whoever the people are in this country with all this money, right? The Walton family, there is enough money already in the U.S. government to do everything that needs to be done. If we can spend $20 million on a robot to go to fucking Mars, then we have money to fix our schools and roads and hospitals. It isn't about, sure, do I think people who are skirting paying whatever their fair share of taxes is? Sure. But overall, there's plenty of money.
There is plenty of money, but let's just be clear on something. In 2019, this was reported in February 4th of 2020. All right, just so they said Amazon had to pay federal income taxes for the first time since 2016. Okay, so, and what they paid was like $162 million, which is a lot, but it's a fraction of 13.9 billion. In fact, it's 1.2% tax rate. Okay,
and I believe Amazon or any big company, I believe 100% should have to pay their fair share, should be taken through the legal process to do it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it still doesn't negate the fact that at the end of the day, it's a false presentation to us as citizens that the reason that this country is struggling is because rich people aren't paying their fair share. The reason this country is struggling is because there is already millions upon billions of dollars that the U.S. government collects in taxes. There is already enough money. If we can build a $5 million tank, we can fix a school.
I completely agree with that statement. It's a common conversation that's been going on since we were in high school and college, and even I remember seeing, the government will be fine the moment they have to have a bake sale for a jet, and the education has all the money they need, right? And it was a great popular bumper sticker, and I agree with it, honestly. But and I'm not disagreeing with anything you say, right? I believe that we spend too much on military equipment, not enough on our military soldiers. I think there's a lot to talk about in that side of things. But at the same point, we could have both. And I think that's the conversation too. I'm not saying that we need to have this, the money we spend on our military is insane. It really is insane. Unless there is some,
military, but there's other areas of government where we
there's a lot of government waste, and that sounds like Republican talking, right? But Republicans don't actually care about government waste until Democrats are in office. And again, I
don't know if it's a Republican talking point or not.
It shouldn't be anymore.
It should just be a fact that there's money. If we should be able to fund a school before we fund a tank.
I completely agree. But at the same point, where we are in our country, where it's like we want to have it all, right? I mean, first of all, I agree. If we're gonna if something has to diminish, we can slow down on like you said, the tanks, right? But when a company who's supposed to be getting taxed 21%. That's the corporate tax rate, which, by the way, is super low. 21% is the lowest it's ever been. All right, and it used to be like 30+% of profits, which is what you and I pay for taxes.
Right.
You know, I mean, you and I are paying that for taxes, or I mean, depending on how much we're making, right? That's what we're paying for taxes. And so it's also, you got to pay your fair share. And if Amazon and all the other corporations out there that are multi-billion-dollar corporations are actually paying the 21% corporate tax rate that they're supposed to be paying, we wouldn't have to worry about even having that conversation, Rob. We could say, well, yeah, you can have both.
But my thing
Ox Bethel said the price we pay for being the world police. He's shaking his. I agree, Ox. It is that's the price we're paying.
Yes, Ox Bethel, because we, from my perspective, we don't need both. It's a false argument.
We
don't need a bunch of.
Yeah.
How many $5 million tanks do we need?
We don't. We don't. But it's the whole, it's thanks Teddy Roosevelt for this. It's the walk softly and carry a big stick, right? It's like that idea of, if we have this huge military, nobody's going to mess with us. And there is some truth in the fact that, look, nobody really messes with us on a country to country scale,
because we go and bomb their countries.
Well, look, and again, like Ox, my thought on the whole price we pay to be world police, I agree with that. But really, we're not even the world police. We're really we're just out there to protect what we consider our assets in the world, and that's usually oil and resources like that. So that's why we're messing with. That's why we were in Iraq, right?
This is colonization. It's not protecting our assets. Those are their assets. If that oil is in their country,
their assets.
That is their assets.
It's absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. It's their assets. But it is part of what we do. I mean, because look, if we were the world police, we'd be in Africa right now taking care of these awful atrocities that are happening in multiple countries with these tribes that are basically mutilating women and taking kids and turning them into soldiers at age 9. All right, that's where we should be focusing if we're the world police, because those are the greater crimes.
But can we turn a mirror back on ourselves?
Of course.
We put kids into the military. We have a country that diminishes women, especially through the legal system.
Sure.
So the United States, for me, is at a flashpoint where it is a governing structure created by these straight white land-owning men who only wrote these rules for them, is now at a flashpoint where it has to look at itself. We can't, especially after having Donald Trump as president, the United States can no longer go around and say, we're the greatest people on earth.
No.
You should do what we do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what's our metric? What's our metric for saying that we're the greatest country in the world right now? There are a lot of great things we do, right? But one of the reasons why most people in the world like America is from Hollywood and entertainment side of things, because we're really good at entertaining the world. Okay? Yeah. I mean, we are good at that. All right? We do have this big military that sometimes does good. Sometimes it's collaterally does good, right? And this isn't against our military people. They come in to serve our country and they believe they're serving our country, and sometimes the country is doing something good and they feel good about it. Other times, I don't know. I wouldn't feel good about a lot of things our military has to do.
I have members of my family who are in the military. I don't have anything against people.
No, of course not.
Who are in the military per se. Obviously not across the board. I don't like anybody all across the board, but the issue is with the grand scale of that industry, right? And there are other industries, right, where there's also just too much money thrown at them. But in comparison to how are we going around the world, the $5 billion tanks, bombing other countries, telling them that they should, be democracies and take care of their people, when we're not doing that here?
No, correct. I mean, you look at what's happened to the way we look at voting, and other countries third world countries are doing voting better than we are right now, because they're just like, here to
right, this place that they created, right, that they say they created, right, on other people's land. This place they created, which was for refugees, and the right to vote your conscience, is now denying refugees and trying to stop people from voting.
Yeah. No, you know what it comes down to? Right now, we treat like this two-party system has turned a lot of this into this, right? Right now, there's two teams playing each other. They don't let anybody else in the league, right? And they're playing against each other, but they're not playing against each other to I don't look at it like they're trying to help. They're just trying to win. And it's just for the win. They want the win. When really the way it needs to be looked at is they're all on the same team. We just are choosing who the starters of the team are. And the team is Team America. We're fighting to make America a better country. And that's the way it needs to be looked at. And instead we're going, well, we're either going to give it to Squad A, the Democrats, or Squad B, the Republicans, and we have to take everybody from that squad to run our country. That it's just it's a mess when we look at that way.
We need at least 5 squads.
I don't even think I mean I agree with that. Like more parties could be a good thing. I'm a believer in no party system. All right.
I know we've had this conversation.
Let's have it, man. I think no party.
Not realistic to human experience.
It's not.
By default, parties will start to exist.
By default, parties will start to exist, but I think there comes a point when what we've gotten to this point is that like they only exist to keep existing. Is that I don't feel like they're existing in order to like move anything else forward besides again this whole us versus them kind of thing, and really we need to almost say okay it's almost like every 10 years you have to stop and like eliminate parties altogether and start fresh again. I know it's unrealistic.
Figure out a way. We'll talk about that on the next episode because I think we need to figure out a way to make it.
Oh, we're at 11 already.
How does a new party gain a true foothold on the national stage?
So the only way this happens, in my opinion, and we'll close it out, but and I'll say it in a second, but Oxbow, the military-industrial complex is a real thing, supported by both teams. It's bulletproof. He's right. You're absolutely right. Eisenhower and
yes.
He the famous speech where he said that's the greatest problem we have, and I completely agree with that. It really needs to go away. But it doesn't go away unless we get rid of the two-party system. Really, it doesn't go away. And that's what brings to my point. None of this goes away until we truly address how we elect our leaders. And I don't just mean popular vote, which that's not we're not gonna get to popular vote, by the way, until we completely publicly finance campaigns. There has to be a system in which you can get publicly financed so any average Joe who has a brain on their heads can potentially run against somebody who else. And so you have to get rid of basically almost all super PACs. You have to get rid of all of that whole the way that people are getting money for elections needs to go away. Obama kind of started a movement where you could get small donors to raise money, and we need to capitalize and build on that kind of stuff. And it's happened since then, right? I mean, Trump took advantage of it as well, right?
The issue is not raising money. The issue is the way in which the money is raised.
The way the money is raised, okay? When you have a super PAC and they are giving you millions of dollars for your campaign, they are worth way more in what they want from you than us. Right? If they piss off 1 million of us who give them $1 compared to 1 million there, if they could piss off, they can afford to piss off half of us. 500,000 people easily can be pissed off if they got $1 million from somebody else. So that's the key right there is they want your votes, but money gets votes because you have exposure and all those things. So if you were to take all of that away, and also if you were to shorten the election cycle, I mean, we have a very long election cycle, which costs lots of money. People start announcing that they're running for president sometimes 4 years. Right after the other president's elected, you'll hear those kind of announcements. But usually it's within about 2 years before you'll start hearing the early contenders coming out and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then you have this very ultra-long election cycle. And the media is a problem in that, too, because they want their coverage and blah, 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 blah. So there's all these things that are kind of the infrastructure of how politics is done is really, kind of cemented in. Just like the industrial... Yeah, take the money. Exactly. I say take the big money out of politics, watch the magic happen. Ox, you were absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm saying. When you take it away and it's only so what you do is then you have an approval process for petitioning. All right, and this is off the top of my head. I know I've read before, so but like just understand, there's people who are smarter than me that have come up with better ways to do this. But essentially, it all starts with a petition. You start at the local level. You get petitioned up. You get to a certain level. Okay, you now have this budget for the next so many months to run your campaign and get to the next tier of budget. And what I get to learn is, how good are you compared to this candidate with handling a damn budget? That's your first fucking lesson. That's our first lesson as to who you are in politics. Can your group handle a budget better than this group? That's your first test. Then you get to the next level. You have more money. What's your next team? Your next test. Now we get to see who you are in action as a team for how you get to where you are, as opposed to whose ass are you kissing to get to this point.
But there's always going to be a degree of ass kissing if you don't also. I understand what you're saying, but you also have to reduce somehow the cost of advertising.
Yes, that's another part of that proponent, right? Where at every level you get so much airtime to be able to present who you are and like why you're the person to do that. And now we have people where you're educated on who they are. And if you take away the D and the R, oh my God, you have to listen to what they believe in. And they can actually differ in some opinions. They can say, look, I'm for cutting taxes on the rich, but I'm also for giving money to the schools and less on military. I mean, that Republican could exist, right? I mean, but we don't know that they exist.
The way the Republican Party currently stands. That's why I feel like there will be another party. I don't have any issue with the notion of people being a part of a party, a group that they believe in this and an idea that is best for that city or country or state or whatever. I think what happens within that party, if that party becomes corrupted, then maybe it's time for that party to end. Like, I think that the Republican Party has become not that the Democratic Party doesn't have its corruptness as well, but there's a rottenness in the Republican Party that's like, this party, I think, needs to end itself.
There is a rottenness in the Republican Party. I absolutely see that. I think that the Democratic Party, it's funny, you can find complaints about the Democratic Party, but it's not at this level. They're almost like your run-of-the-mill complaints. Like, my complaint about the Democratic Party is that they don't get shit done now. They are getting a lot of stuff done right now, and when they have some power, they can get some things done. All right, but they also they also bring a knife to a gunfight a lot of the time, and that's one of my problems with them is they tend to play nicer when it's not going to benefit them. And because they and I get it. We have principles. And it's like, yeah, well, your principles, and I agree with them, but like when the other party doesn't have principles.
There are principles that I think if they would let go of, and we should also wrap it up.
We have to wrap it up by now.
But there's also this need, and it goes back to the founding father, as we were talking about before. If there is not a true examination of who and what this country is, you can't know that you need to bring this gun to the gunfight, right? And not a knife, right? I like Nancy Pelosi. I think she's intelligent. I think she's a very smart person.
Absolutely.
I do wish newer, I don't want to say younger because it isn't about age per se, but I do wish newer, right? Could be people in their 50s, in their 20s, like just a variety of people can come in, right? I love her and Maxine. I want newer people to come in.
But
what frustrates me when I listen to Nancy sometimes, and it's not about her, it's about the thought process of speaking. When people talk about our founding fathers and hold them up, we have got to bring them down. We cannot move forward if people keep holding them up. We have to hold up them and their ideals. Their ideals were women were in the fucking kitchen and the nigger slaves were out in the back. That's what their ideals were. Until we break that down and really start to talk about them as human beings and the deep flaws that they had, to talk about them as real people and then redesign the system for real people. But we still, and again, it's not about Nancy Pelosi. I've heard many people use the term, we're trying to follow the ideals of our founding fathers. And as long as we keep that as the frame of reference and doing that, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more, like, it's almost like there needs to be a course called like the Dark History of America course that every kid has to take. Right? It's like here's here's the history that your parents learned, right?
Yeah.
And like that with the whitewash history. Or maybe that's really what the conversation is you have to have your regular history now, which is what I would call the dark history of America, which is the true history. And then you can have, here's whitewash history. So we now recognize here's what really happened, and here's what we've been teaching for so many years that has kind of misinformed the public. And I think the thing is to recognize, and like I said, that, like, and maybe I'm coming from being maybe it's a white privilege conversation. I don't know. But I look at the founding fathers as flawed individuals, incredibly flawed. Owning slaves, all those things, terrible, obviously terrible atrocities, right? But at the same point, when you look at some of the brilliance of how the Constitution was designed, these were incredibly intelligent, flawed people, right? There was, for their time period.
But they were designing it for them. That's why I can't look at them as these highly regarded. It doesn't matter how it was written. Yeah. They wrote it knowing it was intentionally excluding other people. That's what diminishes any sense of greatness of them for me.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying.
It'd be one thing if they were writing it for, for their wives to also be empowered and for no one to be enslaved. But that's not what they were doing.
That's not what they were doing. Well, yeah, and we it looks like we lost our video again for a quick second, and I'm not sure if we're back or not. We had a great comments from Ox, and I think he's back in now.
They were very flawed men indeed, LOL.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we always appreciate getting the comments. I'm not sure if we're still on now because Facebook keeps doing this weird kicking us off and back again. I don't know what that's about.
I think overall we were there.
I think we're still there. I think, I don't know. It's not letting me see my own chat right now, so it's. God, I hate. Yeah, we're gonna be doing a shift at some point where we direct people from Facebook to our website where it just will stay stable for some reason because it's
okay.
But we get a lot of nice traffic on Facebook, so we don't want to lose it. But anyway, we went long today because it was a good conversation, and we appreciate everybody who joined us.
Yes, thank you.
And so we'll finish this next time. We just kind of had to. We went long on this, but we'll have some more history conversations. These are fun, man. I love it. We're gonna teach the dark history of America. Yes. All right, man. Well, I want everybody to. Oh, there we go. The chat back up. See, Facebook's confusing me, man. I think we're still on the same feed. I hope when they shut us in and off and on. But Ox, thanks so much for listening. We do this every Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain, 12 Eastern. Sorry. Did you see the comment from? Okay, so just so those everybody's watching who doesn't know Rob and I, we're best friends. We were college roommates. One of our college roommates gave me shit on Instagram, Mr. Michael Wilder.
Yes, Michael Wilder.
And because I had put down, we're meeting at 10 a.m. East Mountain Time, and he's like, Dave, who the hell puts Mountain Time?
It's true.
And I was like, people in Denver do, damn it. But yes, we are the time zone nobody thinks about. There's Eastern, Central, because Chicago takes up the Central time, and then you have Western. And I'm trying to change that, man. Mountain Time is
you work on that.
Mountain Time's marijuana time, damn it. We're a couple hours past the East Coast, but we're still ahead of California, and we'll take it. That's right. A couple hours past the East Coast, but ahead of California. Everybody's moving from California to here, Texas, so it's kind of funny how that's happening. They are moving.
They're shift politically.
The census, they lost what? Did they lose 1 or 2 seats? 2 in California? I mean, they still have more.
I think New York lost 2.
But Colorado gained. Texas gained. Or no, Texas lost.
But eventually, the idea is that this is why I want a popular vote.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that eventually people will just be living everywhere. It won't matter. They only create the red state and the blue state and the purple state because of the electoral college.
That's exactly right. Yeah, get rid of the electoral college, get rid of the 2-party system, and then popular vote makes a lot more sense to everybody. I'm down. We're solving the world's problems in 3 minutes of closing. I love it. All right. Well, thanks again for everybody for listening today.
See you next time.
As always, it's fun. Got to put the music on. I don't even know if they're hearing the music. I think they are, but hey, you know, we're hearing it, so we're fine. So, and I want everybody to have a good weekend. Be safe. I'm getting my second vaccine shot tomorrow, and I'm not saying that to brag. I don't get the idea of bragging about vaccines, but I will tell you if I get some side effects. I mean, I'm kind of like we should have like a betting. Do I get a side effect? What do you think?
We'll see, because I will not be getting any of my vaccines. So
Oh, do YouTube just shut us down? YouTube just shut us down. You said you didn't say something positive about the vaccine.
That's it. That's the end of the show.
The algorithm stops listening by minute 20, I think. So there you go. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Everybody have a good weekend. Be safe out there. Peace, love, and happiness to all.